All right. Green light. Good evening. So I gave this lecture this morning at UC Davis. It took an hour and a half. So I don't think I've ever been on stage with notes before, but this is to keep me from going off the rails. My name's Jacob Katz. I'm the Central California Director for California Trout. I'm a conservation biologist. Actually, I've been calling myself a reconciliation biologist. That's because I believe the 21st century defining challenge for California is to reconcile water supply with environmental protection. Now, we may live in the internet age, but our water infrastructure dates from over 100 years ago. It's a leftover from an industrial age when little to nothing was known about fish and the rivers that support them. Our water infrastructure, our water technology, dams, levees, canals, they were never designed, never meant for environmental protection, to sustain ecosystems, to have self-sustaining populations of smelt or salmon. Our levees were primarily put in place to squeeze rivers, to make sure the water was deep enough to get paddle ships from the city up to the gold fields. Today, 13,000 miles of those levees completely cut off the floodplains and wetlands that once made the Central Valley of California one of the great wildlife landscapes on Earth. Think Serengeti, right? Birds to turn the sky black. Over 2 million salmon every year swam beneath, actually through. The Golden Gate is not a bridge, right? Those fish came through the Golden Gate into the rivers of the Central Valley. Recently, maybe 3% of those fish have returned. And the fish that have returned, the ones that have come back are hatchery fish. We can do better. We can create a system that works better, both for people and for fish. It would be hard to actually design a system that would be more hostile for fish than the one that we have inherited. The point here, and the one that needs to make that's illustrated by the slide, is that we live in a managed landscape, right? Fully 40% of the non-ice surface of the Earth is now either in agriculture or intensively grazed. Agriculture is the human footprint. The more the human footprint expands, the less room there is for wild creatures, right? We need to make sure that our managed systems, our working landscapes, our agricultural landscapes work for wildlife, work to preserve the Earth's great biodiversity, right? So it's time for an update. The old operating system separated species from the landscape. What we're proposing, what we do, what we have shown works is integrating fish and wildlife into the operation and maintenance of California's water management system. Nigiri is a form of sushi, right? A piece of fish atop a wedge of rice. Our Nigiri project is a collaboration between farmers, environmentalists, and scientists to rebuild our salmon populations by taking small fish and putting them on winter-flooded rice fields. Those wetlands are gone, but the rice fields remain, right? This isn't rocket science. Sunlight, that's what makes food for people. When sunlight hits an egg crop. When sunlight hits algae floating at the surface of the water, that makes biomass. It makes sugar. That sugar makes bugs. Bugs make fish, right? A simple thing. The engine of natural productivity has been removed from the system by our levees. So this project has shown that in summer we can grow food for people, and in the winter, on the same land that stays in agricultural production, We can grow food to support healthy populations of fish and wildlife. Our rigorous scientific results with the best scientists in the state, academics, agencies, has shown that we can have both our fish and our farms. We're challenging the popular conception that endangered species are a direct result of human development. They're not. They're a direct result of a system that was built never to accommodate them. So, change, true systemic change, comes hard, right? It's glacially slow. But we have the big water and big ag support from the north and south of the Delta. Folks that normally are at war support this project because they understand that fish abundance equals water security, right? We can scale benefits up incredibly. $250,000 infusion of battery capital funds, battery-powered capital, will actually leverage up to $1 billion in government funds and water revenue to scale these projects up from thousands to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of acres, to see the landscape level implementation that will allow California to forever have wild salmon on California tables, but also to ensure that there is sufficient water going to sustainable cities, that there is sufficient water for the ecosystem. And I think I'm supposed to stop. When I told him that I had 6 minutes, he said, "Have you ever said anything in 6 minutes?" I guess I'm just supposed to tell a joke. What did salmon do when he ran into a cement wall? What'd he say? Damn. Oh, man, that went over. Lead balloon. All right. Let me hit the... We have a system that allows us to have our environmental, to have our fish in our farms too. To make it work. Stop. All right. So I have a time for a question. Right here. In back first. Yeah.
So, what do you plan to do with the $250,000? Since it's a broad project, where would you start if you were given $250,000?
Well, $250,000 will allow us to move, and I, didn't actually get to explain that project very well, did I? So we started 5 years ago on 5 acres in the corner of a rice field, a mud puddle, right? And we showed that not only was that winter flooded rice a good surrogate for wetlands, not only did those fish survive, but they grew faster than any other documented fish. What you're doing is reintegrating the natural productivity of the system into the way we manage water. And in so doing, you can start to create the capacity in the Central Valley to actually have self-sustaining populations of fish. That allows, you can't make new water, but this is as close as you come. You're getting the most pop per drop for the water used. You're getting the environmental efficiencies that are necessary. Just like water efficiency is necessary in our cities and on our farms, it's necessary in the way that we apply water to the environment. What we will be doing is working with the Natural Resource Conservation Service, the feds, with the state entities, with large local private sector farmers to take things onto, let's say, the best way to do this, to create a model that spreads across fence lines, that's peer-to-peer. So instead of spending tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars on postage stamp size 10-acre, 100-acre restoration projects, we can create a model that goes from one farmer to the next over hundreds of thousands of acres in the valley. Thank you.